Okay, today we are very honored to have Gina from Calvary Chapel, and I know your senior pastor Jack Hibbs is a great pastor. We all love him and like him a lot, and I know it's burning in your heart.
Yes.
About the education, especially the children,
the public
school,
sex education.
Okay, it's especially for the like elementary school level.
All levels.
All levels.
We should be concerned about all levels.
Yeah. I think this is a subject that doesn't matter who you are. Like, what do you have belief or no belief in religion?
Right.
Whether you are Democratic Party or Republican Party or no party, this across the board should be a concern of every parent or like grandparents.
Every grandparent too.
Yeah, like me, I became grandpa and I'm deeply concerned also.
Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's called Comprehensive Sex Ed, and it's a law that passed in 2015, and schools are starting to implement it now in 2019. And so I want to talk about that today. I want to give you some background information about it.
Okay.
I want to talk about the actual law and what it requires. I want to give you evidence of what's being taught in the public schools, and I want to talk about what we can do.
Okay.
So that's what my talk is about wherever I go. And so that way parents, grandparents, citizens can be informed, because they need to know that this is happening. And most people don't know. Some people refuse to believe that it's actually happening because it's just so outrageous.
Okay.
But I'm going to give you the real proof that it is happening.
Okay.
So, Comprehensive Sex Ed, or CSE, we're going to abbreviate CSE. And so why are they teaching this? Because they have some ideas of what they want to, how they want to change the hearts and minds of our children. And there's 4 points that we should understand about CSE. One being that they want our kids to be free from sexual inhibition. They want them to be free to experience sex. So they're talking about sex in the public schools.
Starting from what age?
Well, it's mandatory in 7th grade, in middle school and in high school, but the law says they can teach it in kindergarten up to 6th grade. So I'll give you examples of that in a minute. But they also want our kids to think that the morality that we have is old-fashioned. They want them to become familiar with the whole idea that everyone can have sex. Okay? And also then that they want kids to be able to make up their own minds about when they should have sex. Instead of our parents, parents say, wait till you get married before you have sex. And that's not what's happening in our education. It's like, when you're ready to have sex, when you think you're ready, you can have sex. So they separate our children from what we've taught them. And then finally, that they should actually have sexual pleasure. And there's evidence of that throughout the curriculum, and I'm going to explain that. And it sounds so outrageous. People are going to listen to this and they're going to say, that cannot be true. But believe me, it is very true, and I'm going to give you the proof here. But I want to talk about how this all started.
Okay.
If anybody wants to do the research, they can start looking into Dr. Alfred Kinsey. He's the one that started studying sexuality. And then he came up with this organization that started because of all the research that he did. It's called SECUS. It's Sexual Information and Education Council of the U.S. It's an organization that was co-founded by a man who was associated with Penthouse magazine. And also it was the initial money to start SECUS was from Hugh Hefner from Planned Parenthood. So men that were involved in pornography had a hand in starting SECUS. Okay?
And they got the money from Planned Parenthood.
And that comes later, but yes. So SECUS ended up becoming a source for our state and our federal government to get information about sex education. CSE is very powerful, okay? So with all of that research and CSE and all those connections, that's how we end up with today's sex education in our public schools, okay? And of course, very connected to all of that is Planned Parenthood, ACLU, and organizations like Advocates for Youth who provide curriculum. And there's a lot of other curriculum companies that actually get their curriculum into the public schools, and that's where it all begins, the kids learning about sex in our public schools. So I want to explain this so that people understand that is truly a law. It's called AB 329, the California Healthy Youth Act. And Assembly Member Shirley Weber is the person that wrote the bill, and she took it to the legislature and introduced it. So what I include here is a clip of Shirley Weber introducing the bill so people can see, oh, it really did happen. She really did introduce that. Do you want me to play that right now?
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'm pleased to present to you AB 329, which is the California Healthy Youth Act. Comprehensive sexual health and HIV prevention education has been shown to be effective in both delaying sexual activity and increasing condom and contraceptive use among youth who are already sexually active. LGBT inclusive education has also been shown to have a positive effect on school climate overall and make LGBT youth feel safer in schools. Research also shows that health education can improve students' academic outcomes, including areas of reading and math.
Okay, hold on there. So what she's saying is to have, for the children to have sex that will help their
Reading and math, yeah.
What the?
I know. Outlandish.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
No, if I, I mean, hopefully this is, you can stop the credit here, but it's like, how does our kids having sex with each other improve their reading and math? They do not make sense.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Okay.
And how can people believe in this?
They do though. That's the problem.
You know, this is just,
there's no clear thinking here.
This is just, remind me of, when Jesus said on Matthew 24, this great deception. Like, people just they just so easily just receive the light and thought it's true.
Yeah.
Great deception.
Their minds are seared.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
And so some of these people, their minds are seared to think, oh, you're going to see that when I go through this information.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we can start now.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that we need to get this information out into the hands of people. So how do I do that? So I created this document. It's called an infographic on CSE. And the front side will explain some bullet points about what comprehensive sex ed is. The back side talks about who voted for this law that Shirley Weber introduced.
Yeah.
And so I talk about that there so people can know. They need to know. But I also want to talk about the very specific things that the law says, okay, the legislation itself. And so if you look at the bill, it's several pages long. There's been many people that have analyzed it and looked at it, but one of the things that it says is that instruction and material shall affirmatively recognize that people have different sexual orientations, and when discussing and providing examples of relationships and couples shall be inclusive of same-sex relationships. What that is saying is that when you're talking about sex education, you have to include LGBT, transgender, and all those kinds of relationships in the instruction. It's an absolute must. You cannot just say sex is between a man and a woman. It's out. It would be out of the law. And it says also that instruction and materials may not teach or promote religious doctrine. It specifically says that in the law. So you would not be able to say, Christians believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and that is the only way that people should have sex is between a man and a woman. You cannot say that. It's
I
outlawed.
see. So children have no idea what's right, what's wrong.
Right.
Okay.
It also, this is interesting, it says that they want to provide pupils with knowledge and skills they need to develop healthy attitudes, that word is key, healthy attitudes, concerning adolescent growth and development, body image, gender, sexual orientation, relationships, marriage, and family. Now the thing is that what's interesting here is they want kids to develop healthy attitudes. But a healthy attitude to these people, to Shirley Weber and the people that voted for this, is their version of sex and what a healthy attitude is. Is that meaning that same-sex relationships and all those types of things. It's not our conservative values, not those kinds of attitudes. That's not a healthy attitude. So it's their version of a healthy attitude.
And all the way to the redefinition of what the family is.
Exactly. So that's very important to understand. So the big question parents and grandparents always have is, well, I don't like what they're going to force our kids to learn in school. Can I take them out of the class? What you need to understand about taking your kid out of that curriculum, out of that class, is that you need to look at CSE in two ways. There's a part that says you can opt your child out when they're learning about HIV and STIs, which is sexually transmitted diseases, and maybe like the biology of how menstruation and all those kinds of things. You can opt your kid out of that side. The side that you cannot opt out of is a side that talks about the gender, the sexual orientation, and all of those gender issues that are the very controversial issues. That is very specifically outlined in the law that you cannot opt your child out.
Wow, that's totally reversed.
Yeah.
It should be the other way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because parents want to talk to their kids about what they believe about the roles of men and women.
Yeah.
They don't think that the school has the right or the place to cause the children to change their mind.
This is totally like a socialist thinking. Because in socialist mind, the government owns everything. Your children are not your children. It's the government's assets and property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a really big problem.
Right.
So there's also a part of this whole CSE, Comprehensive Sex Education, that you should understand. The California Department of Education writes what's called the Health Education Curriculum Framework. And that framework, you should look at it as a guide for the school districts and for the curriculum writers. So they offer a lot of ideas about how the schools should teach it. They offer suggestions, and even they offer books. This book here was offered in the framework, and I mean it clearly explains to little children. This is in cartoon format. It clearly explains to children that there are different genders.
Yeah.
And they're suggesting to the schools to bring this type of book in, and there's a lot of
So what does that book talk about?
It's about gender.
And how they illustrate it.
Yeah.
This is, so that everybody knows, this is a very thin book, but that the way it is illustrated, we
It's for
know
children.
that it's for children, very little, like probably kindergarten.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They can bring this into kindergarten, and there's other books. One school in Northern California, we know for sure, read the book called I Am Jazz, about a little boy who transitioned from a boy into a little girl. I mean, all of those types of books are allowed with comprehensive sex ed, starting in kindergarten. Okay?
Okay.
So it's important to know that there's a lot of information that the parents will never see, but it's allowed in the schools, starting at very young grades.
Okay, it's like, what do you like? How do you feel? And who are you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they're planting these ideas and these questions in the minds of the children so they can think about whether or not they're a boy or a girl. They
Yeah.
want to be the opposite gender, be transgender.
They plant the seed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are several curriculums that are circulating right now in California. Some are very popular, some are not so popular. One of the popular ones is called Positive Prevention Plus. Another one is Rights, Respect, Responsibility from Advocates for Youth. And I want to give you examples of what is actually in that curriculum. The Positive Prevention Plus curriculum is purchased by a school district, and then the teacher gets trained, and then they teach it to the kids. But some of the questions they ask in Positive Prevention Plus is, for example, imagine being a different gender.
Oh.
You know, they're saying this to a classroom full of kids, and so the kids are to sit back and think about, okay, I'm a girl. I'm going to imagine what it is to be a boy.
Wow.
And then they ask the kids, well, if you were to become a different gender, what would be different in your life? They are really putting these ideas, these questions in the kids, in the minds of the children. Parents would never even know. Kid's going to go home from school one day and parents going to ask, how was school today? And they're going to say, oh, great, it was fine, nothing happened. The kids just not, they're not going to talk about this. We have to be talking to our kids, really questioning them now to know what they're actually being taught. So this is Positive Prevention Plus. And one other thing about a lot of these curriculums is they make sure that the children know that they can get off of campus to go have an abortion. The school will take them, or someone will take them to an abortion clinic. They can have an abortion. That's the law in California, without parental consent or knowledge.
So the parent wouldn't even know,
They
like
wouldn't
what
know.
happened to
No, their daughter.
their daughter. Yeah.
They would take them to school in the morning,
Yeah.
the daughter. They would pick the daughter up at the end of the school day, and the daughter went and had an abortion.
And you don't even know, like,
You don't know.
how many times.
No, that's
Wow.
the law. It's a very old law and very strong law that we have tried to fight for years. There's another curriculum that's called Advocates for Youth. Advocatesforyouth.com or .org, I'm sorry. You can actually go to their website and you can look at the curriculum. It's free. You can download it. And Advocates for Youth is a terrible curriculum also.
I think, Gina, you can talk, for example, the Advocates for Youth, you can just briefly talk about
Yeah,
what they're talking
so
about.
this-
Slide by slide, then we're going to insert it.
Right.
And re-add it.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's fine.
So one of the things Advocates for Youth will ask, the teacher will ask the kids, when do you think someone is ready to have sex? Either oral, vaginal, or anal sex with their partner. They have the kids think about that.
Oh. So you,
Yeah.
and you said that they are allowed to teach this even to kindergarten.
Oh yeah, it's the law.
Oh, wow.
Also, they do role playing in the classroom, and this is one of the ones that I saw in the Rights, Respect, Responsibility curriculum. For example, they're going to have two boys sit up in front of the class. One's going to be named Morgan, one's going to be named Terrence, and they're going to talk about what's going on and when they make the decision to have sex. Two boys.
Huh.
It's an actual role play that they're going to do in the class. So all those points that I made in the beginning about lowering the inhibitions, the right to have sex, the right to have pleasure, all of that is throughout all the curriculum. And there are other curriculums that you can look at, but you have to go into the school to look at them. You can't purchase them. Advocates for Youth is one that parents can go online and look at.
Okay.
Okay. Another terrible thing about this curriculum is that kids are often, there is instruction for the teacher to have the kids get online in the classroom. Either they're supplied a computer, an iPad, or a phone, some kind of way to get online. And they give the kids website links to get online to do research to understand more about sexuality. And these curriculums have lists of websites that they can visit. And one of them that Advocates for Youth has is Scarlet Teen. It's scarletteen.com. And so I started looking at these different websites, and when you get to these websites, they're even worse than the curriculum. And they're out talking about same-sex ideas and having sex and just a lot of things that parents would actually probably consider pornographic. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Scarlet Teen is a terrible one. Mm-hmm. And when I started looking at their website through all the pages, I thought, who is the person that put this website together? And I learned it's a lady that wrote this book called Sex, All You Need to Know, Sexuality Guide to Get Through Your Teens and 20s by Heather Corina. Mm. Heather Corina is a person that founded scarletteen.com. And when you read this book, it has sex acts, how to do certain sex acts, descriptions. So if our kids are in the classroom and they're told to go to one of these websites, they know that Scarlet Teen has very suggestive conversations and information. A kid can go on to Amazon and buy this book, or into a bookstore, and it's terrible information. It is pornographic. Okay, so that's what's happening to our kids. The kids, they have curriculum, but the parents don't know that they're also getting online and having access to even more pornographic information that they would never know.
So you have like examples how awful that website is?
I do, yes.
Can you show just like one or two so we know how?
Well, I just gave you two from Positive Prevention Plus and from Advocates for Youth, but that's part of it. One of the other ones is Be Real, Be Ready, I believe this one is. And they talk about, this is an actual PowerPoint slide. And they talk about dental dams for safer oral sex. I didn't know what a dental dam was until I started reading about it. And I'm sorry to say this, but this is what a dental dam is. A dental dam is a sheet of plastic that a dentist would use to protect the patient from getting stuff down their throat or different parts, whatever. But they use it for oral sex on different parts of a person's body. And that's how they describe it right there. I don't even want to say this to your audience. You can imagine different parts of a person's body.
Yeah.
You put the plastic between your mouth and the person's body. That's what it's for. They teach the kids this because they say they want to protect our kids from catching diseases. So that's
well, the best way is not do it.
Yeah, exactly. Abstinence. Abstinence is the answer.
Yeah.
But that's what they say. They're preventing sexually transmitted diseases. That's how they're protecting our kids. So people ask, how do they get away with this? This sounds so terrible. We do not even talk about that stuff in our circles of friends and family, right? Yeah. Well, what people need to know is that schools, museums, and other organizations like that are exempt from obscenity laws. Okay? They're protected. So let's say a school teacher is teaching this to the students and they're talking about all these things that we would consider obscene. But if that school teacher was maybe your neighbor and just sitting down and talking to your kids out in the front yard about all of these same kind of things, that person would probably be arrested. But a school is exempt. As long as they do it in school, they're okay. If they do it outside of the school, it's pornographic and they'd probably be charged with corrupting the mind of a child or something. Whatever the law would say. So that's how they get around doing this. So let's talk about what we can do. this is what parents need to know, and grandparents. You need to know what they're teaching in your child's school district.
Yes.
Call the school district office, ask what curriculum they are using for comprehensive sex ed.
Okay.
Ask what grade they are teaching it in.
Mm-hmm.
Some school districts are only teaching middle school and high school. Some are teaching in kindergarten, all the way up. Find out. Find out when they're teaching it, and fill out an opt-out form. We have an opt-out form that a parent can use, but a school district may not allow it for all the parts that we talked about, getting out of the gender identity stuff. They may not allow them, or they may. Every school district's different, and not all school districts are complying with the law. So it's every school district is different. So a parent has to do some questioning and find out what their kids are being taught. And they need to be talking to their kids. Because sometimes school districts teach CSE in the spring. Okay? So parents need to be asking on a regular basis, did you have sex education today? And then parents need to talk about what they value. That's very important. And it's a difficult topic. We do not want to have to be talking to our kids about this, but we have to counter what the schools are teaching because it's legal for them to teach that. So if we want to protect the hearts and minds of our kids, we need to talk to them. So that's the real understanding of what's going on, and it's a difficult topic.
Yeah, and so do you have example of actual curriculum?
Yes,
Some
I do.
of them. We
do.
want to show
Yes,
how
I do.
awful it is.
Yes,
to,
I do.
Yeah.
So this is the book that was in the California Healthy Framework. Okay?
And this
It's called
is-
Who Are You?
Yeah,
The
for the
State of
kindergarten.
California is recommending this book for schools. Okay? And so if you go to this page, you will see the cartoon with the teacher writing on the board that says, I am a girl, I am a boy, I am both
Oh.
a girl and a boy.
How can you be both?
They're confusing the kids.
Okay.
I am neither. I am neither a boy or a girl. That's asexual. You're not either one.
Oh, okay.
More confusion for the little kids.
Gee.
I am
Wow.
just me. It's like whatever I want to be.
What I feel, what I want.
Yes.
Huh. Okay.
Confusing our kids.
This is so confusing, and this is not just confusing. It's like introducing the self-deception.
Yes.
Lunacy. They are indoctrinating the children
Yes.
to that kind
Yeah.
of same deception, self-deception, right? Because the gender you're imagining, you're feeling, it's contradict
Yes.
your
Biology.
biological, your DNA in every molecule.
Yes.
Every molecule, even though, right, they go for the, let's say, transgender operation, they cannot change the molecule. Every single molecule, still, if you are XX, remain XX. Your XY remain XY. Nothing changed.
Exactly.
So that is how I see how dangerous this is.
Well, they're changing the hearts and minds of our children, and most parents don't even know it. And there's an explosion of kids experimenting with their sexuality. I bet you, I would think that if you would stand outside of a high school and watch the kids walk out of the school, I think that you would actually see for yourself that a lot of kids are experimenting with their sexuality.
So now we will see, well, I know, I started to see more, even parents, they thought that this is the right thing to do. So they encourage their own children, boy to dress like girl or like whatever, and
Or no
and
gender at all.
Or
No
no
gender
gender
at
at
all.
all,
That's like this book said, I'm neither.
Oh.
They don't want to say to their little girl, you're a girl. We're not going to say you're anything. You decide.
Yeah.
That it's becoming kind of a movement with some parents, and
Yeah,
it's
yes.
heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking, yes. Okay, so this is one example, and then
So here's an actual example from the Advocates for Youth page right here, and it tells the kids that they can have an abortion without parental consent.
Huh.
I outlined that here. That's
Gee.
an actual page. And so parents don't even know that that's happening.
And parents has no right to know.
Oh yeah, no right to know. The law says they don't have to be told and they don't have to get permission. So these curriculums are hundreds and hundreds of pages. So I can't bring everything here, but right here, this is the one I just talked about. Again, from Advocates for Youth. The Imagining a Different Gender Activity, where it says, ask students to stand up, turn around twice, and sit down again. Then say, I want each of you to imagine that you are a different gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, or gender role. That's a game they're playing in the classroom. And think about the kids that are very sensitive
Yeah.
and very vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, and they're planning these ideas
They're
in
still
their head.
developing in the process
Exactly.
of developing their self-identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another question they ask here, ask what would be different in your life if you were a different gender identity, or sexual orientation that you currently are. What would be different if you're a girl and you became a boy? So they have to stop and think about that. I don't want people asking my children that question. And then I talked about some of the resources. They give resources, a list of websites that they give out to the kids. And the kids can go home and get online, or they can get on their phone. They can go to the school library, they can go to the public library, they can go anywhere and get online, because the teachers have given the students this information. So they know where to go and get information about sex the parents would never know. And you know, it's outrageous. And pornography is an epidemic in the United States. And this is going to lead the kids into deeper and darker areas of sexuality that we don't want our kids to get into.
Right. So, in summary, what you're saying is this law has passed in California 2015.
Correct.
And now, as of today, 2019, March 1st, this is in the school.
This is the law that the schools have to comply with. So either they have already put everything in place, they have the curriculum, the teachers are trained, they have a date that they're going to start teaching it.
Okay.
So they may be doing that. Or they still are trying to catch up with the law.
I see.
They are sending teachers to be trained. They are still deciding what curriculum they want to use. They don't have an actual date that they're going to teach it. Every school district is different in a different level of complying with the law.
Understand. So it's parents. Now we can only rely on parents ourselves.
Right.
Responsibility to
Protect our kids.
protect our own kids, and also to call the school district at your area,
Yes.
and to find out what
Right.
curriculum they are teaching and when, and what's the content,
Yep. And talk to your kids.
and talk to your kids.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this is very important,
Yes.
very important thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Gina, for
You're
your
welcome.
sharing. This is, and yeah, may God bless the
Thank
work
you.
of your hands. Yeah.